Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 13, text 8 to 12. So we had started with these topics some weeks ago, months ago, and few other topics is yet to be covered at the end. So I thought we can do that today. So we'll offer prayers, Mangala Charana, and we can start discussing. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyam Ishwaram. Okay, so today we'll be covering this topic of detachment, starting from detachment and the rest up to the end of the 12 shlokas. It's a very beautiful quote by His Grace Mahatma Prabhu. Detachments means to not be owned by what we own. So we will read the shlokas and the translation that we were doing. So I can read the first shloka and Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Amanitvam Madambitvam Ahimsa Shantirarjavam Acharyopasanam Saucham Stairyam Atma Vinigraha. Anybody wants to read the next few verses?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Indriyartesu vairagyam ahankara eva cha janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha doshana charanam asaktir anabhishvanga putra dhara gruhadisu nityam cha sama chittavam. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji.
Can I read, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji. We want your presence and voice blessings, please.
I don't see the diacritic, so I may be reading wrong, Mataji. Forgive me for that. Ishtanishtopapatishu mai chananya yogena bhaktiravya bicharini vivikta desha sevitvam aratirjana sansadi adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartha darshanam eta jnanam iti proktam ajnanam yadathonyatha.
Thank you so much, Mataji. So, anybody wants to read the translation?
I will read, Mataji, if okay with all.
Yes, please, Mataji.
Translation: humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, and self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, non attachment to children, wife, home, and the rest, and even mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, Krishna, resorting to solitary places, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I thus declare to be knowledge, and what is contrary to these is ignorance. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, so in this 13th chapter, which is called as Nature, Enjoyer, and Consciousness, that is the title of this chapter. And Arjuna is asking various questions about what is the body, who's the knower of the body, Kshetrajnayor, Jnanam, that he wants to know, and then so many other aspects of philosophical aspects. So Krishna, um, after starting to explain uh, how this whole, basically this 13th chapter is considered to be the um, essence of the philosophical knowledge present in the Vedanta Sutras and Upanishads. So we can see he starts off by telling that what is knowledge. And in that, there are these items. And after telling all this, in conclusion, he says that all these I thus declare to be knowledge, and what is contrary to these is ignorance. So, such a powerful statement from the Lord explaining what is knowledge. And so I thought we would do a recap of what we did till now. So we saw that amanitvam, adambitvam, humility and pridelessness. So these are all some lines from Srila Prabhupada's purport. So humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. So yesterday also we were reading in the 15th chapter that as long as one has the hankering to have honor from others, he says that it is difficult to surrender to the Lord. So, so this is such a, I memorized this line and I'm telling it again and again to see that what a fantastic definition of humility. One should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. And then Prabhupada goes on, the material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others. But from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge, who knows that he is not this body, anything, honor or dishonor, pertaining to this body is useless. So that is the point, basically. So a person for whom he is not this body, then whether he's honored or he's dishonored, it shouldn't matter. For a person who's perfectly situated in self-realization, it's as good as this, that suppose someone scolds me, chastises me, or says something abusive words on me, how much it would affect me. Or someone would say something to my dress. Oh, look at your dress, it's so bad, it is not of a good design and it looks so horrible. I wouldn't be much perturbed when they say something about the dress rather than about me. But for a person who is situated in knowledge, the real me is not this body or is not this identity. It doesn't matter to him. As like how if someone says something about our dress, it doesn't matter that much. For him, it doesn't matter because he himself in this world, in this life, it's like a dream-like existence. And this is a dress, right? Vashamshi Jeevnani Yata Vihaya. So That's what Srila Prabhupada is pointing to here, starting with being in perfect knowledge that we are not this body, we are a spirit soul. Pridelessness is a extension of that, humility, and non-violence. So non-violence, he explains that unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. So generally people used to think that, I'm just reading, non-violence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body, but actually non-violence means not to put others into distress. So for want of spiritual knowledge, people are in so much distress, because the spiritual knowledge can bring them to happiness, and we know that and we have that. And if we don't give that to others, that means we are practicing violence. So basically, explaining this concept, preaching and giving books and everything comes under the concept of non-violence. Amanitvam, Adambitvam, Ahimsa, that is non-violence. Shantir is tolerance. Tolerance means that one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. Because Srila Prabhupada says that because the material nature is so constituted, it's never that, there are always insult and dishonor readily awaiting every single person in this world. So he says that tolerance means one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. If we don't have that practice, we can see that that's because this is connected to this. So because of not being humble, that means we are always anxious to have satisfaction of being honored by others. So that's the reason we cannot tolerate or bear the insult and dishonor from others. But we can see that this is a theme that is repeating in Bhagavad-Gita. Krishna again and again from the beginning, he says, Matra Sparshastu Kaunteya, Sita Ushna Sukha Dukkha Daha. Heat and cold, happiness and distress, Agama Paino Nityas Tam Stitikshasva Bharata. Please tolerate that. Oh, Asiyan of Bharata. He's telling to Arjuna. And then simplicity. Simplicity means that without diplomacy, one should be so straightforward that he can disclose the real truth even to an enemy. Yeah, so that's the only line here, and we saw that how in other places also Prabhupada echoes the same things. I heard in the lecture of Nita Singhi Mataji once she was telling that how when we are telling something about X person to a Y person, we should think whether I will tell the same words in front of the X person if he or she was here, whether I'll be able to tell that. If we are able to tell that, then we can go ahead and talk about X to Y when X is not there. So basically, we can see that an extrapolation of this, we can, practice vacho vegam, what we are talking, how we are talking, and how it affects our consciousness. So then cleanliness. So cleanliness is essential for making advancement in spiritual life. He says there are two kinds of cleanliness. We saw how it is, there's external cleanliness, taking a bath, whether it is winter or summer, every day, every single day, taking a bath at least twice. That's what is mentioned in the Shastras, if not at least once. External and internal is, of course, taking a mental bath, that is mantra bath, that is becoming very famous now. Take a sound bath or mantra bath. Basically, chanting the holy names of the Lord is like cleansing the heart. Cheto Darpanam Marjanam. So that's the first introduction of holy name that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving. So that both has to be done. That is cleanliness. And then he says steadiness means that one should be very determined to make progress in spiritual life. So from determination comes steadiness, because where there is a will, there is a way. Otherwise, there are hundreds of excuses. I couldn't chant because of this. I'm not able to do this aspect of devotional service because of this things. But if we are determined to make progress in spiritual life, then that means one is steady. So, yeah, Srila Prabhupada says that how this is a very important concept, and also Rupa Goswami says in Nectar of Instruction, Utsahan Nischayat Dhairyat, and Tattat Karma Pravartana, with patience, with enthusiasm, and determination, steadiness, one should make progress in spiritual life. For that matter, steadiness is required to make progress in any discipline if we want to do, and especially in spiritual life. So then self-control. Self-control means that one should not accept anything which is detrimental to the path of spiritual progress. So we should be able to discriminate whether this is going to help me in the path of spiritual progress or not. So if it is not helping, then we should not accept it. There's so many, we all come under many situations where we have many people, they ask, oh my God, I mean, taking initiation, Diksha means we shouldn't be giving up the four, giving up intoxication and giving up eating meat and including onion and garlic. And what will happen if you go to a hotel or if you go to a party or to a relative's house? How will we explain to them all these things? No, but nobody can force us what we want to do. What we like to do, we go ahead and do anyways, right? From the beginning, even when we are kids, we can see the kids how adamant they are. If they want something, they know how to get it from the parents. So same thing applies here. But if we are going to live our life, then we live the way that we want to live, and then we should be very clear that I wouldn't accept anything that is detrimental to the path of my spiritual progress. I mean, food is one example. There are so many other things that come under this category. Then comes false ego, mm, amanitvam, madambitvam, ahimsa, shantir, arjanam, acharyopasanam. Yeah, I think that's it. Saucham, Acharyopasanam, Saucham, Stairyam, steadiness, Stairyam, Atma Vinigraha is self-control, Indriyarteshu Vairagyam, Anahankara Evacha. False ego means accepting this body as oneself. Anahankara means freedom from accepting this body as oneself. So again and again, we see that that is the basic concept, whether it is humility, whether it is tolerance, whether it's simplicity, whether it's cleanliness, the underlying thread is our real identity. And that is why we see that if we hear Srila Prabhupada's lectures, 90% of the lectures he's stressing on this. Because there is no, the spiritual life becomes a ritualistic life if we don't base our spiritual life on this aspect, that how am I realizing my true ego? How that, the whole practice of me is to realize that I am not this body, I am a spirit soul. And what is the identity of spirit soul? Mamaiva amsho jiva loke jiva bhutaha sanatana. I'm the spirit soul, servant of the part and parcel servant of the Supreme Lord. And it is not easy. So that's why, Srila Prabhupada repeatedly in various different ways in all the lectures, he's bringing up this point again and again. So again, we saw about that, what it is meant to accept one's body as oneself, and how we can be free from that. So he says that when the sense of self is applied to reality, that is real ego. There are some philosophers who say that we should give up our ego, but we cannot give up our ego because ego means identity. We ought, of course, give up the false identification with the body. Then the last point that we saw was one should try to understand the distress of accepting birth, death, old age, and disease. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. So one may understand, Bhagavad Gita talks about this. Bhagavad Gita looks like it gives a pessimistic view of this world. But at least now, I mean, in 2019, 2018, we wouldn't have agreed this, that, this world, there is something called disease, because we thought that, we almost conquered an epidemic and pandemic where it's at least 100 years old, when there was a middle age, people died out of plague. They didn't know how to cure the Spanish flu, this and that. But after 2020, after the humanity got slapped left, right, and center by a small, insignificant virus, we should definitely take this sentence of Krishna seriously, because we should understand the distress of accepting birth, death, old age, and disease. And now they are bringing vaccinations, and the virus is mutating. In one part of the world, it is spreading like anything. And every time when we step out of the house, we are stepping out with a mask, and when we are coming back, we don't know whether we are infected or not. So imagine, is this world an optimistic place to live in? And this is, Prabhupada, in one purport, he says that uh, pandemic is a natural cycle when the sinful reactions of the humanity goes beyond this is nature's reaction to that there is mass suffering because of that. I mean, I'm not insensitive, but the point is that we need, at least now, we should wake up to the reality that what Bhagavad Gita is telling. So this is what we saw the last few classes before. So today we will cover from detachment up to the rest of the verses. I think only few more concepts are there. So detachment, Srila Prabhupada says this. Can anyone read this? The first thing.
Mataji, I can read, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji, please go.
As for a detachment from children, wife, and home, it is not meant that one should have no feeling for these. They are natural object of affection. But when they are not favorable to spiritual progress, then one should not be attached to them. The best process for making the home pleasant is Krishna consciousness. If one is full Krishna consciousness, he can make his home very happy, because this process of Krishna consciousness is very easy. One needs only chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Accept the remnants of footsteps offered to Krishna. Have some discussion on books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and engage oneself in deity worship. These four things will make one happy. One should train the members of his family in this way. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So we can see that asakti is detachment, and this is what Srila Prabhupada says that. So it is not that, I mean, generally spiritual life, or whenever there is this attachment to family and all is concerned, is people think that
Asakti is not attachment.
Sorry?
Asakti is not attachment, Mataji.
Yeah. Asakti, but you see here in this verse, asaktir. Let's go.
Mataji.
Asaktir. Asakti is attachment. Asaktir is detachment, right?
Yes, Mataji, that's what is given in word-to-word translation. A
right?
Shakti without attachment.
Asakti is without attachment. I'm just going to database to see. Yeah, Asakti. So if you see the word by word,
Yes, Mataji, I just checked. It says without attachment, being without attachment. Thank you,
being,
Mataji.
yeah, thank you, Mataji, for bringing that. Asakti, being without attachment. Okay, so that's what. So we were seeing. Yeah, so Srila Prabhupada very naturally he says that, it is not meant that one should have no feeling for these because they are natural objects of affection. But when they are not favorable to spiritual progress, then one should not be attached to them. So even if when they are favorable to spiritual progress, Krishna should be the center of our home, center of the attachment. We can see that so many devotees are practicing this, in their daily life. I mean, this Krishna consciousness is such a thing that without need, without we don't need to change our position. We don't need to go to the forest. We don't need to, give up anything. But then it will bring peace into the house because of seeing everyone being connected to Krishna. And also being grateful to Krishna for giving us the gift of this family. So I mean that's what many times when my Guru Maharaj also gives class, he says that the spouse, whether husband or wife, we tend to forget that the immediate family members are devotees. Once Rohini Priya Prabhu gave this statement that, yeah, except for the devotees that we live along with in our community, we will agree everyone else in the other place. Oh, devotees in Houston, they are very nice. Devotees in Delhi, they are wonderful. So, but what about the devotees in one's own place? Because there, when we are working together, we have to tolerate. We need to see, so many things, the clashing of egos, and I want to do this and you want to do this. But when we make Krishna as the center, then we can easily accept the devotees as they are. And you know cooperate with them. Instead of seeing their faults, we can see their positive aspects, which because of our upbringing of Krishna says in another place in 16th chapter, Tyaga Shantir Apaishunam. Apaishunam is aversion to fault finding. But what do we have? Aversion to finding what is good. That's what we have. Even if the mind says, oh, that devotee is nice, then one part of our mind will bring an argument or an argument to say, no, that devotee is nice because of this. So, and also we can see that Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Instruction, he says that Nindadi Shunya Hridayam Ipshita Sangalabdya. To find a person, how a person is advanced in spiritual life, Nindadi Shunya Hridayam. So he doesn't have the tendency to find fault within others. So this is one litmus test that we can find ourselves where we stand. So, but the point is, even when we are in our close family members, because when we chant Krishna's names and when we put Krishna in the center, we automatically tend to see them as connected to Krishna and Krishna's gift for us. So in that consciousness, it is easy to there are less clashes. Whenever there is a clash in the family, That's because of this lack of this understanding. I mean, this is my personal experience also. Whenever I lack this understanding that they are Krishna's gift, and how we are interdependent on each other, and when I fail to see their relationship to Krishna, or when I put my relationship to them as priority more than Krishna, their relationship to Krishna, then comes the clash and fault finding and everything else. So Prabhupada gives 4 solutions. This can be called, as a happy family life, like we see in the advertisements. Mother and father looking so young, 16-year-old, 20-year-old, and then they have 2 children. They are like picture perfect, and all of them are happily singing, and it's only there in the advertisements. But if we follow these 4 things, then that can become a reality in everyone's life. One need only chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Accept the remnants of footsteps offered to Krishna. Have some discussion on books like Bhagavad-Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. This is very, very important. As a family, whenever we did this, we find that, uh, there is some bondage, there is some there's a purpose, or you can say that there's a common thread in the family. This is a practice that is practiced by all devout religionists, even Christians or Muslims. I know a friend who's a Christian family, and they have dedicated one part of their room as a Bible room, and every day in the night, before dinner, they come there and then they read a verse from the Bible, and then each one says what to thank God for. Something on that day they pick up and then they thank God. And we went there, and she was so open-minded, and we did Damodar Aarti there. I can see that, it is that room, because of that reading of Bible and other things, it had the same potency as an altar room in a devotee's house. So this is, very important to keep this vibration going on. That's what Vaisheshika Prabhu always says, keep the transcendental vibration going on. Bhagavad-Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and engage oneself in deity worship. So these 4 things will make one happy, and also will make the family members happy. And Srila Prabhupada says one should train the members of the family in this way. Then there is automatic detachment. So after that, Nityam cha samachittatvam ishta nishtopapatishu, means whether what is this? Even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events. So pleasant and unpleasant events are always there. And these are very, very nice quotations from the purport. Anybody wants to read?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Happiness and distress. Happiness and distress are concomitant factors of material life. One should learn to tolerate, as advised in Bhagavad Gita. One can never restrict the coming and going of happiness and distress. So one should be detached from the materialistic way of life and be automatically equipoised in both cases. Generally, when we get something desirable, we are happy, and when we get something undesirable, we are distressed. But if we are actually in the spiritual position, these things will not hesitate us. To reach that stage, we have to practice unbreakable devotional service. Devotional service to Krishna without deviation means engaging oneself in the 9 processes of devotional service: chanting, hearing, worshipping, offering respect, etc. As described in the last verse of the 9th chapter, that process should be followed. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. So you see how, Krishna connects this of happiness and distress. I mean, one should learn to tolerate. because one can never restrict the coming and going of happiness and distress. So anybody remembers a verse that Krishna compares happiness and distress to? This from the second chapter.
Mataji, can I say Matra Sparshastu?
Yes, yes. Very good, Vrinda. That's so nice. Yeah. So, Matra Sparshastu Kaunteya, Sita Ushna Sukha Dukkadaha, Agama Paino Nitya Stam Stitikshasva Bharata. That's a beautiful, beautiful translation. Let me read that. So the translation says, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, ocean of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So Krishna starts actually his, basically Bhagavad-Gita starts from 2.11, where after Arjuna surrenders and then Krishna starts Asocyan Anvasochastvam Prajna Vadamscha Bhashase. So while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. So this is Krishna's first instruction to Arjuna. 11, 12, 13. And in the fourth verse, he says this, that happiness and distress are like appearance and disappearance of summer and winter. When winter comes, we wait for summer. When summer comes, we wait for winter. So we cannot stop this cycle. So what is the thing is, summer comes, but then it goes. Same way winter comes, but it goes. But again summer comes, and again winter comes. So that is the cycle that he gives us to Sita Ushna Sukha Dukkada. So that's why, we just as much as we cannot restrict the coming and going of summer and winter, we cannot restrict the coming and going of happiness and distress. So what we do, summer we put on the AC, we put the fan, and winter we put the coat, and we keep doing our work. So the coat and the summer, the fan and the AC is compared to tolerance. So one should be detached from the materialistic way of life and be automatically equiposed in both cases. Generally, when we get something desirable, we are very happy. It's more so with our, family members and kids. When we have kids, our ego expands. So far, it was only me, but then it's more than me, my kid. So something desirable happens to my child, then I'm very happy. But when something undesirable happens, then we are distressed. But if we are actually in the spiritual position, these things will not agitate us. So our expression after reading this sentence is like this. Oh my goodness. When will I be coming to that position, or is it possible at all to come to that position? As though Srila Prabhupada has read our mind, he writes the next sentence. To reach that stage, we have to practice unbreakable devotional service. So there should be no break in following the devotional service. That today I had so much to do. I did not chant 16 rounds. Then tomorrow I will do. So no, that's why we promise this, so that we keep ourselves on track. Come what may, we practice devotional service day after day after day, and then when we do that, then slowly we reach that stage. So after that, after saying this, Asakti Rana Biswanga Putra Dara Grihadishu Nityam Cha Samachittatvam Ishta Nishtopapatishu Maicha Ananya Yogena Bhakti Avyabhicharini. So Krishna is clearly saying here that devotional service to me, Ananya Yogena, without deviation. Bhaktir Avyabhicharini means not unalloyed. Bhakti, that is the next aspect of knowledge. If a person is in knowledge, then he is Maicha Ananya Yogena Bhaktir Avyabhicharini. So that's what he says here. So how do we do that? We do that by engaging oneself in the 9 process of devotional service. Anyone knows that verse which says about the 9 process of devotional service from Srimad Bhagavatam?
Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmanivedanam.
Very good. So Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. Shravanam is hearing, Kirtanam is chanting, Vishnu Smaranam is remembering the Lord, Padasevanam is worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord, to the Lord. Dasyam is being a servant of the Lord. Sakyam is being in a friendly relationship with the Lord. Atma Nivedana, Shavanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam is offering oneself completely unto the Lord. So when we practice, who told this shloka? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam.
Prahlad Maharaj.
Yes, Mataji, Prahlad Maharaj. You know, Prahlad Maharaj is telling to who? To
Right, his father only.
Yeah, to his father. Prahlad Maharaj is telling to his father these things. Do this 9 process of devotional service, and to his father who wants to kill Vishnu and who is thinking that Vishnu is afraid of him, and so Vishnu hid inside everyone's heart as a super soul. To such a person and who is torturing him, Prahlad Maharaj spoke this verse. That, you know, this is what you have to be doing and everyone has to do this. So that is described in the last verse of the 9th chapter. Who can say that? Anybody else other than Vrinda? The last verse of the 9th chapter. Nobody knows? Okay, then Vrinda, you go ahead. Vasmi Mataji?
Manmana Baba.
Manmana Baba Bandagdo Madhyaji Mamanas Guru Mamai Vaidyaji Daivam Balidan Mamatparayana. Thank you, Mataji.
Yes. See, the last verse of the 9th chapter, Krishna says only 4 things to do. Manmana, think of me. Bhava Mad Bhakto, become my devotee. Madhyaji, worship me. Mam Namaskuru, offer obeisances to me. In this way, you will come to me. So that is the next thing, that how to practice devotional service. So the next one is aspiring to live in a solitary place. As Mamchayo Avyabhichari, Vivikta Desha Sevitvam Aratir Jana Samshadi. So you see here, when one starts practicing this devotional service, the other people will look like this. That what's this person doing? Something different from the rest of the crowd. So already we are in a aloof. We are seen aloof by the so-called relatives and friends and everything. But Krishna says that a spiritualist would like to live in a solitary place, meaning not nirjan bhajan, so not living in a solitary place to attract cheap popularity, but then not mixing with the crowd, not doing things that the society, demands or mandates to do. So in this, he says that naturally when one is adapted to the spiritual way of life, he will not want to mix with materialistic men. That would go against his grain. One may test himself by seeing how far he is inclined to live in a solitary place without unwanted association. We always take association of devotees and avoid unwanted association. Asat Sanga Tyaga A Vaishnava Achara. Of course, we are taking association of devotees. Not that when we go to the temple, when we are with devotees, we take their association. And then when we go out and when the other friends are there who are not yet known the value of life or goal of life, and when they go behind something, then we become one among them. That kind of things will not work. That's, they say, right? The fox who fell into the blue dye, the fox that fell into the pit that had a blue dye, and it was completely coated with blue, but after some time the blue thing went away and his original nature came out. So Krishna is telling our test to being truthful or faithful to him is by seeing how far we are surrendered to him or determined, even when we are in a solitary place, whether we are taking unwanted association or we prefer to remain aloof. So naturally, a devotee has no taste for unnecessary sporting or cinema going or enjoying some social function. Why? Because he understands that these are simply a waste of time. Okay, so that's what he says. So not that he's doing something to be one with the crowd. So that's one concept. Then about self-realization, always interested in self-realization. So as far as self-realization is concerned, it is clearly stated here that Bhakti Yoga is especially practical. Why? The individual soul and the super soul cannot be one, at least in the Bhakti conception, the devotional conception of life. The service of the individual soul to the Supreme Soul is eternal, Nityam, as it is clearly stated. So Bhakti or devotional service is eternal. One should be established in that philosophical conviction. Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam. So Bhakti should not be sentimental, but at the same time, we realize it. Every day we enrich our self-realization by doing all these various aspects of Bhakti Yoga. Then only we can be established in that philosophical conviction. So we have to practice it, we have to hear and we have to practice, and we have to keep doing this over and over and over again. So it may look like, every day we are listening the lectures in Bhakti Sangha, and people who have come today, they don't know what the speaker yesterday or day before yesterday has talked. They may repeat various points, but doesn't matter, because even if a point is repeated 100 times, when we hear the 100th time, there is something called a realization that happens. So because the whole thing, our philosophy is not theory, it is based on how well we realize and how well we are able to practice this. So for practicing one thing, we need to be thorough. For being thorough, we need to repeatedly hear it. So that is Srila Prabhupada's system. So those who are actually knowers of the absolute truth know that the self is realized in 3 different phases as Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam ajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabdyate. Because he's slowly coming to self-realization, and then from self-realization, how our realization slowly goes from Brahman, Paramatma and ultimately to Bhagavan. There is nothing beyond Bhagavan realization, and that's why he says Bhagavan is the last word in the realization of the absolute truth. Therefore, one should reach up to that platform of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus engage in the devotional service of the Lord. That is the perfection of knowledge. So, Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam Eta Jnanam Iti Proktam Ajnanam Yadatonyata. Whatever all this is knowledge, rest everything else is ignorance. So, he summarizes here Amanitvam. We started with humility. Beginning from practicing humility up to the point of realization of the supreme truth, that which we ended with, the absolute personality of Godhead. This process is just like a staircase, beginning from the ground floor and going up to the top floor. Now on the staircase, there are so many people who have reached the first floor, the second or the third floor, etc. But unless one reaches the top floor, which is the understanding of Krishna, he's at a lower stage of knowledge. So finally, Prabhupada then again and again states that it is clearly stated that without humility, understanding is not truly possible. The beginning of knowledge, therefore, is amanitva, humility. One should be humble and know that he is subordinate to the Supreme Lord. Due to rebellion against the Supreme Lord, one becomes subordinate to material nature. One must know and be convinced of this truth. So we have this beautiful quote by Radhanath Maharaj: the beginning of all knowledge is humility. Knowledge and humility cannot be separated, like sweetness cannot be separated from sugar. So this is the overview of these 8 to 12 shlokas. We just tried to cover the surface of the surface of the surface of what the shlokas are, but at least we have spent this time repeating the holy words from Lord Krishna's mouth, and also trying to worship Krishna through our intelligence, because Krishna says whoever reads Bhagavad-Gita is worshipping me through his intelligence. So we are offering that in Krishna's service. Thank you all very much for joining. So we can pause here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna. If you have any questions or if you want to share any points, any corrections, please go ahead now.
Hare Krishna Mataji, such a beautiful explanation. Mataji, I don't know, I couldn't hear properly. You said some bar on chanting or something. You said I was not clear what you were saying. Bar.
Sorry?
Bar or something. You said something like that. I couldn't hear properly, Mataji.
On chanting?
Yeah, in the beginning, towards the beginning of the class, you said we have a bar on chanting or something like that. I don't know. Maybe I didn't hear the word properly, but I was.
This is Kali Yuga memory. I'm so sorry. I'm not able to.
Yeah, when you were on that slide, Mataji, in the slide you were saying we have a bar or something you said. Maybe I'll go back and I'll listen again and see, Mataji.
On chanting?
Yeah, on chanting you said bar, something like that you said. I couldn't hear that word properly, bar or something you said. So I wanted to ask, then I didn't want to interrupt. So I realized.
Oh, anybody else could remember?
Maybe Lakshmi Mata, she takes a lot of notes.
Yeah. So these are all the words just from the purport. For the amount of in-depth slides that you make, Mataji, this is like kindergarten level. Last minute hooked up something, but yeah.
Mataji, if your kindergarten last level is like...
You were telling about cleanliness, you were telling about external and internal. In internal, that is something called mantra bath. That's what I've taken.
Oh, mantra bath. Yeah, sound bath. Now it's very, it's becoming a common thing. Yeah, it's not like taking a bath in the sound, shower in the sound.
Oh,
So
bath. Oh,
maybe,
I couldn't hear
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Mantra bath, is it?
Right, mantra bath.
What
It's
is that,
called
Mataji?
means soaking one's mind in the mantra. So we take an external bath with water, and internally the mind is, nothing else but the mantra. So when we do that, then the cleansing process of the mind is done, and that's what, of course, we are practicing by coming together and chanting every day.
Oh, so nice, Mataji. I've never heard mantra bath. I should try that.
Yeah. Lakshmi Mataji, you have any points, any questions?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji. Very nice class, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. We all missed you so much. Thank you so
Hare
much for your
Krishna
class.
Mataji. I even, yeah, I was listening to all of your wonderful questions, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. So, Mataji, like as we are, I think the every concept wise it has been covered today. So you were telling Mataji, we're starting from humility. It is like a staircase.
Yeah,
So some are in the lower level like humility, and then we keep on moving towards like non-violence, tolerance. So these are the steps that we have to pass through in the like Krishna is telling, these are the path of knowledge. Like he said, this is knowledge. And
right.
when something is contrast to this, that's called ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
And the finally you said, Mataji, so this is knowledge, and the perfection of knowledge is understanding Krishna.
Mm,
Now, in that point, I have a small question or confusion, Mataji. Like you see, there are a lot of devotees. Those are very simple. They don't even know anything about Krishna, but they pray to Krishna like they may think Krishna like their kid, or sometimes they may be like their parents. They take different role. And if you go and ask to them, do you know about Krishna or what do you know about Krishna? They might not understand Krishna, but they are in love and devotional service to Krishna. So when you say understanding Krishna means, what does it mean actually? That you're loving Krishna, or like reading Gita, we can see different aspects of Krishna when we read Gita. He's so intelligent, he's so merciful, like different versions of Krishna. So is this understanding of Krishna? So what is really understanding of Krishna?
yeah, you see that, yeah, you almost answered the question, Mataji. So we, when this is very common, what you say is, I know that especially in South India, uh, when you say Krishna, then for them Krishna is like one of the child in the family, or a young man with a young girl, like that. Not even it's not that he deserves even reverence, like how even Ganesha or Kartikeya or Shiva is given to. So that's the I mean, even I grew up by observing that in the society. But unfortunately, that is not what Krishna is, right? So we know that how, actually, basically, if we want to understand even a bit of Krishna, we should start with Bhagavad Gita. Because that's where he says about himself, and about this world, and about us, and about the time, and about karma. All these things are there to understand. So that is the starting of understanding of God. Then a realization of that understanding is in Srimad Bhagavatam, and then perfectly practicing that understanding is in Chaitanya Charitamrita. But basic is Bhagavad Gita. But without Bhagavad Gita, just having some feelings of affection for the Lord, it's okay. It's better than having nothing, but that is very fleeting. That is not permanent, because I myself had that. I used to, I don't know, somehow of all the gods, I chose Krishna as my very dear Ishta Devata. And then my dad gifted me a Laddu Gopal when I was in 7th grade or 8th. I think since then I was doing Abhishek and other things, puja, very, I mean, what I would call, but unless I read the Bhagavad Gita and understood this, what understanding I had or feeling of so-called devotion or affection of the Lord was very fleeting. I have friends, even now they say that they're so attached to one small Krishna that someone gave them. But then when I call them, come on, read Bhagavad Gita and understand more. No, 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 I don't want that. Let Krishna be there only. Let me have only that relationship. Everything else I'll give to my family, my intelligence, my mind, my money, everything for the family, and only that small, some shadow of affection to Krishna. No, that is not real. That's not tangible. If we want something tangible from the Lord, if we really want to have a relationship with the Lord, then we should make an effort to read and understand what He has told in Bhagavad Gita, at least. That's the starting, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. So, like, if you want to know about a person, it is better to ask to that person about them if we want to know about them. So, Krishna is talking about himself in Gita. So, as you said, that the first way to understand Krishna. So what if someone is not reading, or they never had any chance to read Gita or listen to Gita, but they are in devotional service to Krishna? So then does it mean they are only emotionally attached to Krishna? Like, how do we say that?
So it is possible that some people who have had these philosophical understanding in their previous lives, and they are just naturally being devoted to the Lord without having any basis of this understanding. It is possible like that also, that they're carrying off from where they left. But generally, I mean, that is not the standard that Krishna is looking from us. It's a two-way relationship, right? What Krishna is wanting from us, that he has told in the Bhagavad Gita. So if he really wants to have some devotion and other things, then we read Bhagavad Gita. So if they have no chance, if they are sincere, then Paramatma will give them a chance somehow or other. Because there is no, at least before Srila Prabhupada came to the West, we can say this, that if a Russian or a Chinese or a Siberian or a South American or Brazilian, if they're very, very sincere, they don't have access to Bhagavad Gita. But now we can't even say that, because anywhere and everywhere in the world, any language, Bhagavad Gita is available. So why is it that they don't have a chance?
Yes, Mataji. So why is it they don't have a chances? They know Gita is available, they know Krishna said it, but still they don't want to get into the intelligent part of Krishna. They want to see their Krishna only as their God, either like a God who I don't want to know about the God, but I pray to God, or they want to see him like a small kid, as I said, they don't want to see him like a very big, like something powerful. So
Yeah.
they
So
respect actually. Yeah,
yeah, this is like ATM machine. So there is no feelings of love and affection for ATM machine, that I go and I withdraw whenever I want. So that much only they want from the Lord. They don't want anything. Even if the Lord is willing to come to them, they don't want. So they will take lots of lifetimes more.
Yes, Mataji, that's what you're saying is right, because we see them. They don't want to get so closer. They want to stay in a very safe distance, but they get everything. Yeah, Mataji. So,
Right. You put it nice way.
yeah. So Mataji, the point that you said, that what Krishna wants is he wants to know us, to understand him very well, and to love him and to surrender to him. So that's what Krishna wants.
Right.
That is the reason we want to understand Krishna. Yeah, that's very nice, Mataji.
He's
And
not asking something, cheap from us. He's asking Ananyas Chintayanto Mam. E Jana Paryupasate. Ananyas Chintayantam Mam Ekam Sharanam Raja. Surrender only to me. Think about with nothing else but about me. Ananyas Chintayanto Mam. So he's not demanding something small from us. That undeviated, unalloyed devotion. Yeah.
Yes, Mataji. That's why I think people are not ready to do that because it's not a very simple thing.
Right.
Mataji, and also in self-realization, you said about bhakti should not be emotional or sentimental. So the same thing that we were discussing right now. So but we see the emotion is also a part in it, right? Like how can we say that should not be emotional, it should be seen in an okay, what do you mean by it should not be emotional, Mataji? Are you referring to be an intelligent wise or it should follow the rules and regulations? So how do I understand that?
Of course, like emotional is without the understanding part of it, without the philosophical part of it. Just like as you said, I love my Krishna and I want to love my Krishna, and that's it, being at a safe distance. I mean, that is just simply emotional. On Janmashtami day, they have so much emotion for Krishna. Like, on the other day, they have for the other gods, because they don't want to be bereft of any gods giving them anything. So that is sentimental. But when we are practicing and when we are reading Bhagavad Gita and when we are chanting, we feel a gratefulness for the Lord. We feel like, how we are completely dependent on Him, and how He is so merciful, like as you said, that how He is so merciful and forgiving, and what all He's doing to that. So then, with that thing, with the feeling of gratefulness, and of course that emotional part, we think about all this when we do aarti, when we offer to the Lord the bhoga, that He's ready to accept. I mean, whatever we give, in whatever way we cook, doesn't matter. He is ready to accept from us, and then give us His prasadam. So that is not just emotional. That is emotions based on the scriptural knowledge and understanding and application also of the Lord. Like there is some realization also. So when we start this process, we know like how the Lord is reciprocating with us, even in from small things to big things in everyday life. We know that we can sense the presence of the Lord. So then that is, of course, as you say, bhakti is emotion only. The art of growing this unalloyed uh, emotion of devotion to the Lord. So yeah, that is what we are aiming at, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. So it should be in philosophical with philosophical knowledge and scriptural understanding.
Right, right.
Yeah, that makes sense, Mataji. And one more question I want to ask, Mataji. When you are talking about equipoised in both cases, even if you are in happiness and in distress, we have to be equipoised. So sometimes I get a question here. Okay, there is something very big thing happened. Like something happened in our family, something good happened. So normally we'll be very much happy and we'll be enjoying, we'll be celebrating or rejoicing. And something very bad happens, we'll be very sad. But when we are moving from that level because of devotion, service, and understanding, when we're going to a different level where we're equipoised, does that also makes us to be like blankness? Because when everybody are enjoying and feeling it, you're not reacting to that. And when everybody is sad, you're a little bit stubborn, you're sitting. Does that makes you as like blankness? I'm trying.
No, right. I mean, good question, Mataji. That it's not like that. That we are like bereft of even the normal emotions. It's not like that. Bhakti is in fact para dukkha dukhi. That is the highest level of devotees. A person who is distressed, not when distress comes to himself, but when distress comes to others. So that is a definition of a devotee. So the point is, we see Krishna in everything. In happiness also, a devotee is happy. But when a materialistic person is happy, he thinks that I got it, I did it, I got a house, this is a dream house, and I made it. Because everything is I. But when something desirable comes, what the devotee thinks, we are also happy, but we know that Krishna gave it to us. It is Krishna's mercy that today I'm like this. It's like winter and summer. It's not that we go out in the winter with no coat, and in summer with a heavy snow coat. A devotee is not like that. A devotee is protective. The thing is, so what does it mean is that we are happy, but we are happy not that happiness makes us off our head. Like how a materialistic person, when they are happy, they think this is the end of the life. I've achieved everything. There's nothing more to achieve. But no, a devotee is, this is simply the mercy of the Lord, that he has given something. How I can better serve the Lord in this condition. So when we are distressed, when something undesirable happens, then the devotee thinks that also as a mercy of the Lord, prays to the Lord that, let me be connected to you in this. Let me think about you, like how Kunti Devi prays. Right? So the point is, our relationship to Krishna, this life is a very, very, each day, even one day cannot be gotten back again. One moment also cannot be gotten back, but one day also cannot be. What spiritual advancement we can make in this day, today, we cannot get it tomorrow. So every day is very, very valuable in this form of life after knowing this. So we, whether happiness or distress, we use that situation to cultivate or nourish our relationship with Krishna, to better enable us to be Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, to be grounded in our devotional practice. So that's what it means. That's from my understanding, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Now it's clear. So in everything we see the hand of Krishna. So
Yeah.
that's what makes a difference between materialistics and a devotee. Yes, Mataji, that's understood.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Can I little bit tell my
Yes,
understanding here, Mataji?
yes, yes.
Mataji, when it says like happiness and distress should be equipoised, what I was thinking is like when we get happiness, we think okay, everything is now happy, and we got diverted out of the Krishna consciousness. So that should not be our intention. Like when you are happy, you are not, and then when you are distressed, and you are distressed, and you are because of this distress, and you are diverted again from Krishna consciousness. So it should not be like that. Whatever situation in your life, either happiness or distress, and completely be devoted to Krishna. And it does not mean that okay, if it is distress, I don't cry. I cry, but I show my happiness. Oh, I am happy. Okay, I won. I am happy. It is because of Krishna. I show my happiness to everybody. I celebrate it. But my love for Krishna is not deviated. Is that my understanding is correct, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji. Perfect. Thank you so much, Mataji. That's
Thank
exactly
you,
right.
Mataji. So I cry also. If there is a problem, I cry, but I don't deviate from it. That it is correct understanding, right, Mataji? So that
Right,
way we are
right.
showing our emotion outside. We are not like silent. Oh, somebody is celebrating something, and then like we are quiet. We are not laughing, or we are not congratulating them. It looks very odd. So we are doing everything, but we are not disturbed by that such changes.
Right, right. Very nice, Mataji. Thank you so much. Sukasagri Mataji or anyone else, would you like to add your realizations?
Mataji, the experts have spoken. I will just keep quiet, Mata.
Your humility personified, Mataji.
I see a lot of emotion in Vinita Mataji's voice, Mataji. Very nice. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for encouraging me.
Yes, Mataji, very nice addition by Vinita Mataji. But we see naturally when there is a distance, we move more closer to Krishna. Actually, like Kunti Maharani was telling, more than in happiness, when we get a distance, we immediately go very closer to Krishna. Like normal people, also we see that, and for devotees.
Right, right. Yeah.
And yes, Mataji, that's all. Then you also said that we keep the transcendental vibration going on. So transcendental vibration going on. We know when we chant, we get the transcendental vibration. But what does it mean by how do you keep it going on, Mataji, the whole day or every time? How is
Yeah.
it?
So what I do, Mataji, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has told that chant 24 hours a day. If we are in perfect love for Krishna, then we cannot stop ourselves from chanting. Initially, what happens is when we chant, the mind runs away from the chanting. But in the people who have reached the later, higher stages of spiritual advancement, their mind runs to chanting. Always they are chanting, whatever they do. But since we cannot, always chant and think of Krishna, Prabhupada has given us various ways. Like we are cooking, when we are cooking, we are listening to the classes or listening to the shlokas, ashtakams, or kirtan. So Krishna in some form we are always in touch with. So we make our life in such a way that when we are not chanting, we are serving, we are always constantly hearing, or when we are not serving and hearing, we are reading something. So like this, in some form of the other, we keep the transcendental vibration going on. In many devotees' houses, there is this 24 hours Prabhupada's mantra thing keeps on going on, right? A small mantra box. So that's transcendental vibration going on. Basically, we are consciously trying to put ourselves every moment in touch with the Lord in some form or the other.
Okay, Mother. So not only chanting, like thinking about Krishna or listening about Krishna, hearing to bhajans, listening to lectures. Anyway, somehow our mind is filled with Krishna. So that is a transcendental vibration.
Right, yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Now I can understand. Okay, Mataji, thank you so much for the wonderful class, and you're so patiently answering all the questions, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Your questions, we are waiting for that. Thank you, Mataji. We learn a lot from that. Yeah, anybody else has any other questions, or we can end here?
Thank you so much, Mataji, Lalita Mataji, Lakshmi Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Vinita Mataji as well. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, happy to hear your voice again, Mataji.
Yeah, me too, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for all your, wonderful participation and your realization. All these things are not new to all of you. You all know this, but then, we are getting a chance to discuss this again about the Lord and enrich each other's understanding of this. So,
Yes, Mataji.
thank you all very much. So we can pause here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyascha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti
Krishna Branda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Lalitangi Mataji ki jai. Thank you, Mataji.
Hi.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Wonderful class, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Shanti
Thank you so
Mataji is
much.
very new to the group, Mataji. Shanti Mataji, right?
No.
Yeah, Shanti Mataji is from Charlotte.
Oh, Shanti.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mataji, for
Thank you,
joining.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.